My name is Jesse Edward Rowe, Jr., and I was born in Granite City, Illinois, January the 17th, 1921. And I was, well, let's see, I went to work for Roy Sparks, I believe it was, yeah, at a feed store. I worked there before I went in the service. And also, I was on a farm. And then, well, 1942, well, I better back up here a little bit. Yeah, I went in service 42, 14th. And then they sent me home for a week. And on November the 18th, I got married to Glenda Tinker. And the 21st of November, I left and went up to Jefferson Barracks. And I stayed there a 3 days. Then they put me on a train and I went down to Miami Beach, Florida, and took my basic training. And then I went from there to Tampa, Florida. Took some more training. Then I went to Bradenton and went to a mechanic school. And that was at Drew Field, Florida. And then let's see, I arrived in Iceland, wasn't it? Yeah. And then I stayed there till October the 17th in 44. And they sent me back to the States for a furlough. I arrived here the 28th of October, 44. And I spent, I think, 45 days here. Then on December the 26th, I left for Iceland again, but they put me on the boat about the 24th of December. And Christmas Day, we had our dinner, and when I got my turkey, there was no meat left on it. It was just a skeletons, all there was.
What happened to it?
Everybody got it before I did. I was way down in the hold of this ship, you see. And so I'll never forget that. On the 26th, then we left there and went back to Iceland. And I arrived there January the 17th, which is my birthday, 45. And then I stayed there then until 6th of August, 45. And then I came back to the States in August of 31, 45. But anyway, when we were stationed over there, it never gets dark in the summer months. It's daylight all the time. And if you don't watch, you never see the sun go down because it just goes down behind the mountains and right back up. And then in the wintertime, you don't see no daylight hardly. It's dark most of the time. But anyway, while we was there, we had to go up in the northern part of the island and take all these soldiers and boys and their stuff and their supplies to last through the winter because you couldn't get there. Snow was so deep that you just couldn't get through. And that's quite an experience too, because all that lava rock up there, that's all it is, mountain. And you just have roads around these mountains, you'd have to make them. And these 6x6 trucks, the curves would be so steep, or sharp, you'd have to back up to get around it. You couldn't make it just one circle. So you look off down in there in the valleys there, and it's a long ways down. So I think I made 2 trips up the northern part of the island. But anyway, when we first got found out we was going to Iceland, well, we thought we was going to freeze to death, so we all put our winter clothes on. When we got off the boat, well, it was in the summer months. That was in June. And we almost smothered, I'll tell you. And then, yep, and then it got pretty warm in the summer months. Yeah, it's warm enough. Well, I got a picture I can show you. You can go around just your t-shirt if you wanted to, undershirt. And they got, well, these hot springs over there. They comes out of that lava rock. They heat their homes with it and everything. They pipe it right into the city, you see. And they got swimming pools out right under the bluffs where it comes up, and it's just like dishwater. And then well, let's see, I don't know what else I could tell you now. Let's see. Except when I got back to the States in '45, they sent me all the way to San Diego, California to get my discharge. I don't know why, but that's where we went. And I was an automobile mechanic.
That's what you trained for while you're in the service. They trained you to be a
mechanic, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, when I got my base train, they was going to send me home for furlough. That was about 6 months afterwards. I was in. Well, they canceled the orders and sent me to New York and put me on a boat right there in the harbors. So I didn't see my wife for 2 years or better. And well, I got a paper to tell about Iceland. They got these streams over there at these clubs. They own the streams just about. They got 100 rivers over there. And I was reading in this paper. Of course, I didn't know while I was there, but it cost you $3,000 a day to fish in this stream. And if you take your fishing rods and equipment with it, you've got to have it sterilized before you can fish in this stream.
That's today, or is that back then?
That's just now, I think. And they said it was expensive, which it is. That it's mostly like Prince Charles or something like that can afford it. But anyway, when I was, of course, like I say, it's all lava rock. You don't see no trees or nothing hardly. It's once in a while you'll see a bush around here and there. But
what were troops doing in Iceland? What were our troops doing in Iceland anyway?
Well, there wasn't no. I didn't have it getting any fightings or anything, but we was there just to occupy this island in case the Germans would come in and make an airstrip, you see, then fly on over or something like that. And that's what we was there for. Of course, we had drills and everything. We had to, like we was going to have an attack or something.
What outfit were you with then?
I was in with the 556 Signal Aviation Battalion. That was attached to the Air Force.
So they flew planes out of there too?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Did they do missions from there? Fly? What kind of missions did they fly from there?
Well, that I don't know.
What kind of planes did they have there?
Well, the one I saw had came in and it wrecked. Of course, this lava rock is rough, man. It was one of these, was a B-24, I believe it is, yeah. One of them big ones. And it was sitting out there, and we went in and looked at it. And of course, the whole floor of it was tore out of there and everything.
How long did it take him to train you as a mechanic?
Well, let's see. I went in 42 in November, and I got through in June of 43. That's when I went first to Iceland. And we worked in the motor pool with her. I did all the time. And winter months is pretty rough, I'll tell you.
Pretty cold.
It was pretty cold. We'd come out of our hut some morning, it'd be snow, drifted up about halfway on the door. And we had a mortar pool. It was, of course, it was a bigger building. We lived in these, what do you call them, Quonset huts, I believe. Them round toppings, you know. And the garage was a lot bigger. And one morning, of course, they had these big wreckers in there, 4-ton diamond T's. And all you could do was open the door and then bust our way out of there because it was drifted clear to the top nearly. But I know when we went up north, I had a little old, well, 3/4 ton Dodge pickup. It had a cloth top on it. Well, before I got there, the top blowed off. And it was raining and it was snowing. And of course, I had a rain suit on, but you was sitting in a pool of water in this seat. And your hands would get so cold, well, you couldn't feel nothing. And they did stop at another camp on the way back and let us warm up, and they fed us a hot meal and everything, and then we went on in. But up north there, when the winter months, that snow gets so bad, they had to have like a rope stretched around where they get from buildings to buildings, you know, because they'd lose their way, and that's blizzards and everything.
What kind of automobiles or vehicles did you work on?
Well, I worked on Jeeps and these, well, what they call a 4x4, just a regular size dump truck or something like that, flatbeds. Then they had 4x6s, that's where they had the tandems in the back. And then we had another big truck with a closed in that had all the parts, because we had to take it with us when we went up north, because somebody was always breaking down, and the bridges were so narrow, if you didn't hit them straight, you'd jerk the back end off one of them things, jerk the spring hangers loose, you see. And then when he got out in the sand there, or one place was sandy, it had to, he put it in front wheel drive, and he broke an axle. He was just such a load on the truck and everything. So we had to, of course I was a mechanic, so I had to help work on it and get out there in that dirt, all kinds of weather. Of course, like I say, we'd go up there in the warmer months, so it's a good thing we did, because these, what they call the pass through these mountains, that snow would just get so deep that you couldn't get up there. That's all there is to it.
Iceland doesn't sound like a good place to go.
Huh?
Iceland doesn't sound like a good place to live.
No.
I think
No, I wouldn't want to do it again, but of course there's a lot of experience, I guess. I got to see a lot of country, maybe.
So Iceland's the only country you went to?
Yeah, that's the only place I had to go, yeah. Well, when we got to Iceland, and then when we came back home, they'd put us on a ship and send us over to Southampton, England. And that's where we'd catch the, well, the first one I come over on was a Queen Mary. And then the second time we come back, we done the same thing, went to Southampton, and I got to ride Queen Elizabeth. I've got a picture I want to show you here when I came back. I've got another, my daughter's got it, but it tells how many boys was on this coming back. But what really stands out in mind the most, I think, when I came back on the Queen Elizabeth, they had one of the decks fixed up for a hospital to bring all these boys back that was injured. Now that's, of course, one day I would draw just before I got into New York. Well, I drew a detail to work in this place. And when I walked in there and opened that door, you couldn't believe these boys sitting there, some of them with no arms, some of them with no legs, maybe one of them one hand, one arm, half their face blowed off. And, well, you name it, and that's about every kind of shape you can see them in there. So I'll never forget that. So I'm proud and lucky that I got back in one piece, because after seeing that, you had to be thankful. And I don't know.
So you worked at, you guys owned Western Auto?
No, my brothers owned Firestone. Firestone.
Oh,
now I was in, well, when I got out, I put in me and my brother-in-law, we had a garage together. And my father-in-law, he put in a little station there. And that was back in 46, I believe it was. And that's when they had these old visible gas pumps, you know, you pump up with the bowl on top. So that's what we started death with there. We built a garage there, and then we went out of the garage business, and I bought the station part, and they put in a grocery store. And that was back, I don't know, well, the store was there in 51 when they had that big snow in 51, deer season time. I think it was about 20-some inches, I believe, here.
I think that's when I was conceived. I was born in 52. So.
Yeah. But anyway.
So you weren't in business with your brothers then?
No. I was business by myself.
Well, picture of your first
my brother and I went in the station business right at first, but he didn't stay too long. And then they went.
Do you have a photograph of your first gas station?
Well, I don't have it with me. I got some up there. But I don't know whether I got one of the visible pumps or not.
Your, mechanic training the rest of your life. Right?
Yeah. Then, well, I worked for Mr. Newcomer too when I got back. And, well, at first, when I was in the station, I had a chance to buy a Standard Oil agent out here in Potosi. And so I bought him out, and then I leased my station out then. And so I was a Standard Oil agent then from, well, let's see, till 45, or no, 75. And so that's when all these regulations started getting so rough, and the gas was rationed, and they only, well, they said you'd get so much, and I said, yeah. So I just sold out to Mr. Newcomer, and I drove for him then on the gas truck till 86. My birthday fell on a Friday of 86, and well, I went back and worked a couple, 3 weeks. He broke in a new guy, and I had to work some more then. And then I've been retired ever since. Enjoyed every bit of it. So I don't know, that's about all I can tell you, I guess. Always a lot, but it can go on and on, I guess. Of course, I got an honorable discharge I'm proud of.
say you were drafted or did you enlist?
Huh?
Did you enlist or did you get drafted?
Yeah, I got drafted. Yeah, we lived on the farm till 1940. We moved to Potosi. And then 42, Uncle Sam says, I need you. So
Do you remember what you were doing whenever Pearl Harbor was bombed, or when you heard that it was bombed?
well, let's see. No, I really don't. That happened on a Sunday, didn't it? I believe.
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, wasn't it?
But you probably wouldn't have heard about it until Sunday afternoon.
I probably wouldn't have. That's right. But I guess I was home that time of morning. And I came out as a T4. That's Techno Sergeant, they call it. I had a victory ribbon, a good conduct medal, and another theater ribbon here, it says.
Would that be England and Iceland?
Yeah, I guess. They've got an EAME before the theater ribbon now. I don't know what that. I don't know what that would.
Do you want to take a break now and then fill in with the group?
Yeah, if you want to. I guess that's about all I can. This would be the mustering out pay, something like that. You want to know that, or?
If you can, if there's anything, what I got all the time you need.
Well, I don't guess that. Mustering out pay, it says here, total $300. And this payment was $100. So travel pay was $101.45.
So looking mostly for anything you can remember of the experiences you had, like you talked about the snow being drifted up and roads being narrow,
Well,
looking down the side, how deep it was.
I'm always in South. Well, let's see. Another thing too. President Theodore Roosevelt, or Franklin D. He died while we was there, and we had a big. Well, I've got a bulletin there where we went to. They had a big building, and all the soldiers went there and had a memorial service like for him. You see, in memory of him. And then another experience I had was when I had mail call. Instead of calling my name Ro, they was calling Roe. Well, I went 2 or 3 days and I didn't get no mail, you know. So one day I said, let me see that Roe. And it was my name. So we pronounce that Ro. So I had quite a few letters piled up then. Because you didn't get them every day. She wrote every day, but you wouldn't get it, you know, till they all come in. And you write a letter out to anybody, and they'd take a photostat copy of it. They'd censor it, you see, because they didn't want you telling anything. It wasn't supposed to be told. And then another time, well, when we got to Southampton, we got a pass. We was there 2 or 3 days waiting for the Queen Mary or Elizabeth, whichever it was, to come in. We went another little town there somewhere on a train. Of course, it was pretty rough riding that. You didn't have these comfortable seats on it. So we had to be back. They had a fair there, and we went to this fair, me and my buddy, and we had to catch this train back to our camp at a certain time. And we stayed a little too long at the fair. So we had to stay in that depot and all night, no place to sleep, till that morning got our plane. And we thought we'd be in trouble. We got back before they had roll call. So, and fog, well, it was so thick you couldn't see nothing. We go off this train. Of course, we had to get us a taxi to take us back where we wanted to go. But it's quite an experience, I'll tell you. But anyway, when I first went in, we got Derek Sebastian put us on this old train, and of course back then I think they just took these boxcars, you see, and put bunks in them and everything. Of course, had seats there to sit on. And I think this train must have had, or boxcar must have had square wheels, because that was the roughest ride. We rode on that thing all the way to Miami Beach. And I stayed in Hotel Good out there in Miami Beach. And it was right on the beach. You just step out the back door and right on the sand. Of course, you had blackout every night. You had black curtains on the windows. You couldn't smoke cigarettes out there because the enemy out there in the water, if he'd see a little bitty light, he could bomb you right there, you see. But anyway, when they had us in the Hotel Good, and we was up in a room there, and of course I never was cooped up like that. There was 3 or 4 guys in this one room, and I said, "Boy, I'll be glad to get out of here." And they sent us to, I believe we went to, well, the next camp, I think it was, and we went out on just kind of like a sand beach or something. They had these tents put up, and you had to sleep on these army cots. And of course, them sand lice, or whatever they was, crawled up in your bed all the time. Then we wished we was back at the hotel. And I remember one day, of course, we had a barber in the outfit there. So he was cutting their hair there. So one day he had me in the chair, and he was cutting my hair. We got about half done, and they blowed the whistle to fall out. Of course, you had to go. So I went down, standing in the line. I don't know what the guys was thought behind me, but I had a half a haircut.
Your hair probably wasn't too long anyway, was it?
Well, no, it wasn't too long. But I never did have to give a crew cut. But of course, I got one after I got home, but I didn't have one in the Army. But yeah.
What kind of physical training did you have?
Do what?
What kind of physical training did you have in basic training?
Oh, you had to do all these calisthenics, they call them, I don't know, marching and jumping and bend over. And then another one they give you a bat, and you put your forward down on this bat, and then you go around and around and around, and then you had to run to the certain distance. Well, I never was one that could go around and around because I'd get dizzy. I'd start for this object over here where I was supposed to go, and I might make a big circle like this before I got there. And seasick. Now you talk about something. I was really seasick when they hit rough water. Up on the deck there, they had a big rope there stretched around it, so you wouldn't just get too close to the ledge or railing and fall over. And all these boys lined up. It was sick. Of course, I was with them. You never saw such a mess.
Was it on the way to Iceland?
Yeah.
And back home?
Yeah. Well, just like this big ship, Queen Elizabeth, it hit a storm before we got back in right into New York. And I started getting pretty sick before I got out of there. But them little smaller boats, that's really, well, I got on at Iceland, and we was on this little boat for 4 days before we got to Southampton. And it was rough, windy. And of course, everybody brought their barracks bags in and just piled them up in the corner there. And I crawled up on them things. I couldn't make it to my bunk or anything. I just crawled up on all these barracks bags, and that's where I spent 4 days. And we got to Southampton. And of course, everybody went to unloading, and I was getting pretty weak then. Of course, that big old barracks bag I had everything we had was in it. But I made her.
How long did you stay in Southampton?
Well, let's see.
Just a matter of days?
Matter of days, yeah, it wasn't too long. And that's when D-Day, I believe it was, wasn't it? It was well, I think it was when I was coming back a second time, probably.
V.E. Day? V.E. Day, you mean?
I believe when
May 8th, I think it was 1945.
45.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Around September
It's
45.
yeah. D-Day or something they call it, I don't know.
Oh, D-Day.
That's when the Japs wouldn't have surrendered, I believe, or something. D-Day.
D-Day's when we invaded Normandy, June 6, 1944.
Yeah.
V.E. Day was victory in Europe, was when the Germans
Yeah.
surrendered.
Yeah, I guess that's what it was.
That's in May,
Yeah.
early May, 45.
Yeah. Well, that's all I think of right now. If you want to, we can take a rest.
This showing up. Ready? My name is Floyd Ro. I'm originally I'm from Potosi in Washington County, and I was drafted right out of high school. I was 2 weeks after I graduated from Potosi High School. I was in the Marine Corps, and I spent 37 months and 7 days in the Marines. And can't think of it.
Then were you know, how you went in with your drafted?
Well, I was drafted, and I went to St. Louis, and our basketball team that year, I was on the starting 5, and we all decided we'd go in the Marine Corps. So when we got up to St. Louis and JB, they said they didn't need anybody in the Marines. And everywhere I went that day, I said, I don't want to go in if I can't go in the Marines. I was the only one out of the 5 that got to go in the Marines of the players that was on our team. And I went from there to San Diego, boot camp in San Diego, and then from there I went to gunnery, see what kind of a shot I was. And then from there I went to, I signed up for aviation machinist mate school, and I went to Norman, Oklahoma for training there. And I wasn't like my brothers. They're both good mechanics, and I didn't care anything about mechanics, so they needed aero gunners over in the Pacific. And so I signed up to see if I could get on, and I did. Went to Purcell, Oklahoma for gunnery training, and we was flying SBD Dauntless dive bombers and with 30 caliber machine guns. And that was quite an experience for a country boy. And so Then from there I went to Jacksonville, Florida, and PBY. Took training on them off the St. Johns River at Jacksonville, Florida.
What's a PPY?
It's a patrol boat, you know, a patrol aircraft, you know, that can stay up there. It's the one that found the Japanese fleet, you know, went over at Midway, and they're slow moving, but they could stay up for hours. And I was
Now you're in the Marines, but you're an aerial gunner?
yeah,
That means you're in a plane?
I was in a plane.
And you're
Yeah,
the
people-
machine gunner or
Yeah,
gunner?
like a turret gunner, you know. They,
Okay.
yeah. And but anyway, one day when I was in Florida, they said that they needed gunners overseas, and they did, because they really were knocking our planes out of the air. The Japs were over there, and it was they're just too slow, I'll tell you. Those old PBYs were, but they were good. Anyway, we shipped out to the West Coast, and I did get to come home in the laying route, you know, and so got to spend a few days home then. Went to the West Coast, thought it'd be shipped out just real quick, but just kept hanging on there and staying there. Finally, I told one of my buddies, I said, I'm going down. I said, they didn't put that on my record, because we got to carry our records with us from Florida to California, and they didn't. I said, there wasn't anything in there about just being home on that delaying route. So I said, I'm going down and see if I can't go home. All my buddies were shipping out, and the one other boy and myself had pulled us off each time, and we didn't know anybody. We wasn't asking to be pulled off, but we were. And I said, I'm going to. So I went down, and Sergeant Major said, bring Ro's records up here. He said, well, you haven't been home since boot camp, have you? And I said, of course, I was told a lie, but I said, I haven't been a long time. So, and he said, well, be back down here at 4 o'clock and I'll tell you whether you can go or not. So, we rushed back. I told Kissel, my buddy, I said, I'm getting my clothes ready, because I said, we're going to get to go home. Sure enough, when we got there at 4, he said, you're the luckiest guy, said ever was. Said, you get to go home. So I said, well, I haven't got any money to get home. I didn't tell him that, but I said, I had friends in Long Beach, California. I knew if I could get up there, they'd loan me the money to get home, to which we had to come by train. And that time takes about 3 days to get from San Diego to St. Louis. So I didn't have a whole lot of time, but anyway, got back out there after the leave, and finally shipped out overseas, but the Japs had already surrendered. And I just couldn't believe that they were shipping us over there. I thought, well, we'll go over and do occupational duty, I guess. And, but didn't have to do that. 3 months and 11 days from the day I left San Diego, I was sent back in San Diego. Now, when we went over, went to the lower part of the Mindanao Island, the Philippines, which is a large island. And we pulled in there on this big old troop ship, and you could see, we could see, of course they could just go in so close, and then they had to bring the smaller boats out to get us. And we got there around noon, and you think they let us off out of daylight. They waited till dark and then took us in there and dumped us off in those jungles. But then not too many miles north of where we landed, Malabang, I believe was the name of the place. And it was operating off one of these metal airstrips. Did you ever see one of those corrugated things that has holes in it, you know? And noisy, well, but my brother Tom was there just a few days before I got there. His engineering group helped build the airstrip that we operated off of there. And they told us, we was training there with B-25s. I mean, that's what they planned on us doing. And B-25s were there. You know, B-25, the Mitchell bomber, medium bomber. And but they told us that if the war hadn't ended, we was going to hit the lower part of Japan, the Kyushu Island, and said we expected over 50% of you not to be back. And I imagine that'd be true. But and then I got sick down there. This all was in 1945. In the latter part of 45, I got sick on the first day of October. Went to sick bay for 3 days, and then they didn't know where I was at for the next 20 days. They'd call roll. When they called the roll, I'd be behind the tent, and they never did call my name, so I just didn't have to. After they'd all leave, well, I'd get back in the tent or go down and play baseball and walk down this old river, which we wasn't supposed to go across it, but you could go down there and clean up a little bit. But on the reason I know how many days it was, because they caught me on my birthday, October 23rd. Sergeant of the Guard come in and said, "Ro, where you been?" I said, "Been right here." And he said, "Well, we didn't know where you were." Anyway, he said, 4 o'clock, he said, "You be here," because he said, "You're going on guard duty." And I think I was one of the last ones when they shipped out. I think I was one of the last ones loaded on the plane. I mean, the ship. But I went, you know, it was quite an experience for even to go to, I was 18 years old, and I'd been out of state one time, went to Alton, Illinois. And then we pulled away from home. It was, of course, I wasn't the only one who went through it. I realized a lot of men did that. So, got out, came back to Tosi. I just picked up odd jobs. I was working for a merchant down there, had a little Firestone store, and this nice-looking young girl would go by every morning, going to the post office. And so I'd be out there, I knew what time, I'd be out there sweeping the sidewalk off every morning. And so asked her for a date and got it. And married her and lived with her for 40, we celebrated our 54th anniversary this year. And she passed away I was on June 1st, we got married on June 1st. And then she lived with her over half of my life. It's rough to keep rough right now. Yeah. But then my brother and I don't know what, I worked at this Firestone store, and that gentleman wanted to get out of it, so we took over and we built our own. We was in business together for 29 years.
At the Firestone?
At the Firestone store, yeah. We had a complete line store. A lot of them they're not like that anymore. But a lot of people don't associate Firestone with guns, and we handled guns, we handled refrigerators, televisions, and
I think I bought my first bike at your store.
I bet you did. Oh, it
was a Western Flyer, I think is what it was.
Well, that'd be Western Auto.
Oh, okay.
Ours was Firestone, but we sold a lot of bicycles.
I know we used to go down. I remember going to your store.
Yeah, yeah, and we sold a lot of well, everything. Television. There's one doctor.
My dad used to go there quite a bit. I know.
Yeah. No, we spent 29 years there, and then we built that building down there where Save-A-Lot is now. That was ours. and young Gillum boy wanted to put in a grocery store, so we sold him the building. But that's about all I have.
Okay.
I
I think we're about out of, well, we've got a little more time if you want to think of anything else.
well,
Fill this tape up.
yeah, they
You probably won't be able to fill the whole thing up. It's still got 15 minutes, I think.
yeah.
What kind of ship did you go over overseas on?
When I go on,
What kind of ship do you know what it was?
I believe they called it a Liberty ship.
Okay.
It,
You don't know
it was just a troop carrier. I don't know the name of it. No, but we spent almost a month getting over there because even though the war was over, they still would zigzag, you know how they do, and we pulled in at Pearl Harbor over there to gas up, to fuel up, and came back on the same type ship. I thought they'd fly us back, but they didn't.
Go ahead.
And but we had cleaned up that and burned up that camp when we left there, and there was those people that lived there. They wanted that material so bad, especially wood, you know. And here we had this big bonfire going, and a big dump truck just back in and dump that stuff off, you know. And sometimes they would grab some of it. Some of them took a terrible chance of that load just dumping right on them. But and we left stuff there. I mean, you take like airplane engines and parts and stuff down by what we call Red Beach, which was about probably 3 or 4 miles from our regular base. This beach where we had all this airplane engines and stuff crated up, and just bulldozed places out and buried that stuff there. They said they're cheaper and they could ship it back. I guess it was. But I was one of the lucky. If I hadn't kept signing up for different schools, because there was 4 of us boys from Washington County went in the same time I did, and Bradley boy from Arndale got killed on Iwo Jima, and I could have been very well with him if I hadn't signed up for the aero gunner and different things. And then another boy from down at Old Mines, Jim DeGonia, and he got injured, but not seriously, you know. And the bone boy from Middle Point and I never got a scratch. I guess he didn't either. But I hope that none of my boys ever have to go. But I know they will if it have to.
Now, to ask you something else, this bothers you, you don't have to talk about it. You said you came back and you met your wife and you were working where?
Yeah. I was working at this Firestone store down on Main Street.
That's not the one that you bought, was it?
No. We built our own. And that wasn't large enough for what we wanted to do there. This guy just had a small store. And so we moved down on across the street, and we started out in a little building that was 55 feet long and 17 feet wide, and we changed every tire outside, summer and winter.
Now, he had a Firestone store. You had one too?
Who's that? I know my brother and I, Tom. We had the Firestone store. Ed had the station.
Okay, but when you first came back here, when you said you met your wife,
I was working for another guy that had the Firestone store.
You didn't buy that one?
Not that one, no.
But you built your own?
We built our own.
What happened to the one that had the one that you were working at?
Well, he just sold out his merchandise out of it. We couldn't get together with him on the merchandise stuff, and he'd already told Firestone, you know, he was getting out, so they wanted Tom not to have it. So he we couldn't get together with him on the price, so they said, well, he's out now anyway, so we just went ahead and found us another place, you know, and started. And then as we had one other building we went to after that first one, and was there a few years, and I said, let's build our own. And he agreed, and so we built one that was 80 feet wide, had three, well, you've been in it, you know where it is, Save-A-Lot. Yeah, it was 80 feet wide and about 100 feet long. Yeah.
I always wanted to know,
Yeah.
also, I just
Yeah,
sidetracked
I
there a
always
little bit.
told my wife, if I was telling about her coming down, I said, I just swept her right off her feet.
Where'd you go on that first date?
First date?
Yeah, you said you asked her for a date.
Yeah, I had to go with another couple. And we went up to the old Missouri Club up on old 67 up towards St. Louis. Yeah, I think before your time. Yeah. But we had 5 children. Got 10 grandchildren now.
You
And
hadn't seen her before she passed. Oh, you dropped there every day and sleep, right?
oh yeah,
And you've seen her come by a few times before?
oh yeah, before I started doing it, yeah.
So you
And you know, her sister, when we went to a little country school, one-room country school out here at Evo, and my wife's sister was my 8th grade teacher out there. And I had seen Blanche as my wife one time out there at this, I had a pie supper, you know, and I saw her one time out there. But then she'd come over here during the war. She got over here. She was originally from the Lead Belt over there, and they needed a music teacher, so but she got more money come here than what she was getting over there. So she came here, and her sister lived here too, wife's sister. But so just kept starting dating her, and wasn't too long ago I asked her to marry me, and we've had a wonderful life.
Was that why you were out there sweeping? Was it because you needed to sweep or because you...
No, of course, to talk to her.
Okay. How many times did you have to sweep before you talked to her?
Oh, not very many. Yeah,
But a few times.
yeah.
Before you got up the courage? Or?
Yeah. But, yeah. No, if I hadn't changed, and when I was in the service, if I hadn't kept going to school, different places, and I only made corporal, that's all I made. They would not give a stripe out of any kind of school, they said. I was recommended for sergeant 3 or 4 times, but they never would, they said, we can't do it, we just can't do it. Not when you're going to school. So, before I got out, I saw captains, I believe maybe even a major, washing down planes so they could still go ahead and fly, you know. The main plane was that F-4U Corsair. Had the gull wings. That's one that I kept clean for this one pilot and check it out. We had to check the engines out and everything. Mm-hmm.